Pledge of Allegiance, and would everybody else please mute their speakers?
Okay. Excuse me. Can everybody please place their hand over their heart and repeat after me into your cell phone or whatever you're using? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Director Lane. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Division 7, Gary Van Dam.
Here.
Division 6, Audrey Miller.
Here.
Division 5, Robert Paris.
Here.
Division 4, Justin Lane.
Here.
Division 3, Frank Donato. Division 2, Keith Dias.
Here.
Division 1, Shelley Sourceable.
Here. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Oh, officers, please.
Yes. Dwayne Chisholm.
Here.
James Markman.
Yes.
And Holly Hughes present.
Thank you. Item number 4, adoption of agenda.
This is Keith. I'll make a motion that we adopt the agenda.
This is Rob. I second the motion.
All in favor? Roll call vote, please.
Division 7, Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
Division 6, Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Division 5, Robert Paris.
Yes.
Division 4, Justin Lane.
Yes.
Division 3, Frank Donato. Division 2, Keith Dias.
Yes.
Division 1, Shelley Sourceable.
Yes, thank you, Madam Secretary. Item number 5, public comments and period open to the public. Do we have any public that would like to address the board? Item number 7, consent calendar.
This is Rob. I move approval of the consent calendar.
Thank you.
This is Audrey. I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Division 7, Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
Division 6, Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Division 5, Robert Paris.
Yes.
Division 4, Justin Lane.
Yes.
Division 3, Frank Donato. Division 2, Keith Dias.
Yes.
Division 1, Shelley Sourceable.
Yes, thank you. Item 8, items for consideration and possible action. Item 8A, Finance Committee. Item 8A1, Operations Director, Manager Bozigian. You have a presentation on consideration and possible action to award chemical bid contract for fiscal year 2020 and 2021.
I do.
Great.
Good evening, everybody. We'll start off by pointing you to the staff report on page 24 of your board packet. And I'll give a little background on the treatment chemicals that we use here at Avek before we get into the actual responses that we got. The first chemical we use is liquid alum that's used as a coagulant. Sodium hypochlorite is used as a disinfectant. Zinc orthophosphate is used for corrosion control. Liquid oxygen is what we use to generate ozone, and ozone is used to control taste and odor in the water and also as a filter aid. And then we also at Quartz Hill use carbon dioxide, and that is used to lower the raw water pH in the aqueduct. During the summer months, the pH can get quite high, and the alum does not work as well as a coagulant. The higher than about 9, so we use that to knock it down to mid-8s. Works very well. Getting into the responses, AVEC sent out an RFP to 12 large chemical companies, and we requested proposals to supply agency facilities with liquid alum, sodium hypochlorite, and zinc orthophosphate for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. That would be a 1-year contract. We also sent RFPs to 3 large bulk gas producers or suppliers, and they were asked to submit proposals for a 5-year contract, which would run December 31st, 2020 through December 31st, 2025. We received 2 proposals for liquid alum. Didn't receive as many as we had hoped this year. Not sure why that was, but we did receive 2 for liquid alum, and we would recommend awarding to Eco Services, they're our current alum provider, at $309.20 per dry ton. That chemical cost per unit is up 3% this year, so that'd be a total annual budget of $462,254 for that chemical. We did receive 3 proposals for sodium hypochlorite and would recommend awarding to JCI Jones. Again, that's our current hypochlorite supplier. And their cost is 71.7 cents per gallon. Cost of that product is down 6% this year. Total annual budget for that would be $145,551. We received only 1 proposal for zinc orthophosphate. Typically, we'll get 2. I think the most we've ever got was 3. Very specialized chemical. And we would recommend awarding that to Thatcher Company. And again, for the 3rd time, they are our current supplier. Cost per unit is 68.9 cents per pound. That is also down 1% this year. So the total annual cost for that is $214,700. We received 2 proposals for liquid oxygen. Our current provider is Matheson Chemicals. We received the proposal from Matheson Chemical, and we received a proposal from Airgas. Airgas came in with the lowest unit cost, and you'll see that the different chemicals are priced differently. The units are either in pounds, gallons, or 100 cubic feet, depending on the type of chemical it is. So their unit cost is 71.1 cents per 100 cubic feet. Cost of that chemical is up 8% per unit over last year. They make oxygen, don't make it, but they refine it the same way an oil refinery does their work. They put it through the refining process, and they get liquid oxygen. They get oxygen, they get carbon dioxide, they get argon, nitrogen. Depending on how far they refine it, the air, that's what they can get out of it. Liquid oxygen or oxygen in itself is a difficult refining process. That's why the cost has gone up. It takes a lot of energy to do it. We receive it as a liquid, and then we turn it back into gaseous state to make our ozone. So total annual cost for liquid oxygen would be $259,455. And it gets complicated with awarding the liquid oxygen bid because there's several components that we have to analyze. The product cost, which is the per unit cost, the monthly equipment rental. If you go to all of our facilities, you see these large vertical tanks, vaporizers, a lot of electrical equipment to convert that liquid oxygen into a gaseous state. You cannot own this equipment. That's proprietary to the company that's providing you with it. So you can only rent it. So we have to look at the rental costs and also the monitoring costs because they monitor the levels of those tanks via cellular signal, and they bring their trucks in as needed. They try to keep it within a certain range. And the last one is the most, I'll call it sneaky of all, but they all do it. It's called the end of contract removal cost. And what that is if at the end of the contract, if you decide not to renew, there's a cost for them to come and remove their equipment. And it's clearly stated out in the contract. The first contract with Praxair, we paid almost $70,000 to get them to remove their equipment. Matheson's removal cost was $103,000. And so we ran the numbers, and still, overall, we're going to save about $69,000 over 5 years by switching to air gas. So there will be a overall cost savings, and we feel that their contract is going to be a good one, because if in 5 years we decide not to go with their gas, their removal cost is only going to be $14,400. So we're saving there also. We did ask if they would if they had a cost escalation amount per year that they had in their contract. So they did add one willingly, voluntarily, they did. And let's see. Matheson proposed an 8% maximum escalator per year, and that's on the equipment and that's on the product. Airgas held theirs to 3% maximum. So again, we know budget-wise how much that chemical can go up every year. So that's another benefit. That being said, and on page 25, you can see the bid results, Excel spreadsheet. But that being said, the 2020-2021 annual treatment chemical budget is proposed to be $1,200,000. The total cost is going to be down 6% over last year, and we base that on a treatment of about 41,000 acre feet with an average water quality. We do anticipate treating slightly more water than last year, which probably begs the question, how can the chemical overall budget go down if we're treating more water? And that's simply because with the 15% allocation is when we ran these numbers, but now it's up to 20%. We anticipate treating less surface water and more groundwater. And certainly treating groundwater, it's just a matter of disinfection and sending it on its way. Treating raw state project water is more expensive. You have to use more chemical. So that's why the overall budget will go down a little bit. So in summarizing, staff would recommend the following. Award Eco Services a 1-year contract for liquid alum, $462,254. Award JCI Jones a 1-year contract for sodium hypochlorite at $145,551. Award Thatcher Company a 1-year contract for zinc orthophosphate at $214,700. And award Airgas a 5-year contract for liquid oxygen at $259,455. And that would have an annual 3% maximum cost escalation component. With that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. The Finance Committee took a look at this, and we went over this quite thoroughly and found that staff's recommendations were very thorough, and the Finance Committee would recommend approving this.
This is Keith. I'll make a motion that we approve Board Order 8A1.
This is Director Lane. I second the motion.
Any further questions? Roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Dustin Lane.
Yes.
Frank Donato is not present. Keith Dias,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable.
Yes, thank you, Madam Secretary. Item number 8A2, consideration and possible action to approve service body evaluation for 2 trucks by Douglas Truck Bodies in the amount of $128,172.76. And I will defer to Operations Manager Bozigian for his presentation.
Thank you again. If you look on page 28 of your board packet, you'll see a staff report. And I will give you a very little background on this. On March 31st, the directors approved purchasing 2 maintenance vehicles, cab and chassis only, for our maintenance department that we have formed. That went to AV Ford, and we put out proposals to 3 well-known truck body companies. They fabricate service bodies for service trucks and welding trucks and so forth. Douglas Truck Bodies of Bakersfield, Selzy Truck Bodies of Fresno, and Marathon Truck Bodies out of Santa Clarita. So we sent out the specs of how we wanted these service bodies built, and we got 2 bids back. Douglas Truck Bodies bid $128,172.36, and Selzy Truck Bodies bid $133,762. Marathon Truck Bodies, it was difficult getting them to send us a bid. They acted interested at first, and then kind of at the 11th hour, they told us that they're just so busy with everything that's going on. They really couldn't take on that project. But the gentleman that I was working with told me verbally that their price would start at minimum $65,000 per body and probably be upwards of $75,000 by the time they got done. So that would be more than the other 2. So we did get the 2. The truck bodies are going to come complete. They're going to have a crane, air compressor, racks, drawers, outriggers for the crane. And they're going to be very nice. All we have to supply is the welders for them, and then of course the hand tools. Budget breakdown: how are we going to pay for these? Which is always a good question. In our capital budget, items number VN2-20 and VN3-20. The capital budget for these was $225,000. And that included, those 2 items included the cost of the cab chassis, which came in at $105,382.78. The cost of the truck bodies, which Douglas Truck Bodies came in at $128,172.36. Well, that makes a total of $233,555.14. So we're over budget $8,555.14. We knew we were going to be close. But we did have a backup plan, and at the last finance meeting when we bought the trucks, we said that we were going to delay capital budget item BIR 7-20. That's the FPL turnout upgrade, and that budget item was $35,000. So we're going to delay that project until next fiscal year. And the budget shortfall will be taken out of that $35,000, so it'll cover it very well. So with that being said, staff would recommend awarding the proposal, or accepting the proposal of Douglas Truck Bodies to fabricate 2 crane-style service bodies for the maintenance trucks at a cost of $128,172.36. And we expect the trucks to be in, as you know, a lot of the automotive dealers or manufacturers had changed their tooling to make ventilators during this pandemic. Ford was one of them, but I got an email about a week ago that they're back to making vehicles now. So there was a delay, but we feel that by the time the vehicles are here and the truck bodies are done, it should be probably late August, early September. I think it'll work out pretty close. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Director Van Dam here. Is that for 2 trucks, or 2 truck bodies, or 1 truck body? I don't see where it breaks it.
Yeah, it's for 2 truck bodies.
2 truck bodies?
Yes.
Okay. Also, we're not paying them in full up front? How's that work?
No. We put a deposit, and then we pay in full when the job is done. It's a very small deposit. They're the same company, Gary, that built the truck body for our welding truck, and they also built the truck body for our original service truck, Mobile 17, and did a real good job on both of those. They're still beautiful.
Hey, John, this is Director Lane. How have those trucks that they built so far, how have they held up? Have they have any major service issues or any type of problems so far?
No, the welding truck looks brand new, and that was done in 2014. Mobile 17 was done back in, I believe, 2001. The only thing we had to do with that one is we had to take it back about 5 years ago, and there was some cracking happening on some of the corners of the cabinets. And since then, they have started putting stiffeners in the corners, welding stiffeners in so that won't happen. But they repaired, since we bought it originally from them, they repaired it at cost. And that was about the only thing that we had wrong with our oldest truck body.
And those are Fords, John?
Yeah, they're Ford F550 diesel trucks.
Do they have the 6-liter engine in them? Do you know?
Gee,
They're diesel, right?
They're diesel. I think they do, and they've got the 10-speed transmission.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Director Van Dam will make a motion.
Second?
I'll second. This is Lane.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 8A2. Do we have any further discussion? Roll call.
Yeah, one thing. Van Dam again. John, take a look at those and make sure you're happy with them. How much deposit do we have to get them?
I'll have to check, Gary. I want to say it's 10%.
Okay.
I'll check it.
Yeah, just go over those when we get them in and make sure you're happy with them. It sounds like prior you've been happy, so I don't see no reason to change it up now.
Right. Okay, we'll take a look at that for sure.
Okay.
All right, thank you all.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Destin Lane,
Yes.
Frank Donato is not present. Keith Dias,
Yes.
Kelly Sorsable.
Yes. Thank you. Item number 8B, Public Information Committee, Director Lane.
Yes, the Public Information Committee met last week, I believe it was, and it was regarding our performance with the insurance agencies and Avek's good job done. Dwayne, do you have a further presentation, or is it going to be Matt tonight?
A presentation, and the item that you were discussing had to do with the HR Labonte, or the Bounty, I should say, Ball Safety Award. And as mentioned, this safety award recognizes the water industry employees who implements significant safety improvements to prevent occupational injuries. And this award recognizes results-oriented activities that increase safety program participation and ensures continuous improvement. And because the agency has had such a good track record with its safety program, it was noted that we have the possibility to get recognized for this, our safety procedures and the way we go about doing things. And so it was recommended that we apply for this safety award. And that's something that the Public Information Committee looked into. Over, in, not moving forward here. There we go. All right. So the nominations for this award can be for an individual employee or work group, safety committee, or in our case, what we would be looking at is an agency-wide effort. The deadline for the nominations is September 1st, 2020. Once again, it's not working. So, this particular program is associated with Goal 1 of our program for Avek Strategic Communication Plan, raising the agency's profile and brand and reputation. And this would assist in those areas. Oops. And with that, the Public Information Committee recommended authorizing the general manager to apply for this award, and the information with regards to the award is contained in the application is contained in your packet. With it, that would conclude my staff report. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
No questions from me.
Well, that's quite commendable that we can even go forward in making this application. So hopefully we will win the award.
Be nice.
Yes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion we approve Board Order 8B1. This is Keith.
Second from Lane.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Justin Lane,
Yes.
Director Donato is not present, Keith Dias,
Yes.
Kelly Sourceable.
Yes. Thank you. Item 8C1, Director Pierce.
Now I'll turn that over to Dwayne.
Yes, Director Paris and members of the board. This item is a review of the rules and regulations for the water master, and the action is to provide guidance to the Avek representative for the agenda for the meeting that's going to occur on 5/27/20. As you are aware, and contained in your application is a memorandum that was developed through the Water Adjudication Committee to be submitted to the Water Master for consideration. The memo was put together by Jim Markman, the agency attorney, and in your packet is the rules and regulation, draft rules and regulation document. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jim Markman to go through the memo and the suggested changes that are outlined in that memorandum.
Okay, happy to do that. So for a little background information, about 11 parts of these rules and regulations were piecemeal approved in the past by the water master and approved by the court. And they were written, pretty much drafted by the water master engineer. So there were some head knocking on some of the substantive issues between some of the ag interests and Waterworks 40 and other public water suppliers. So early this year, around February, I was asked by Matt and Dwayne to chair a committee of lawyers on both sides to see if we could get all the substantive issues ironed out and get this thing adopted as a whole piece. And so we went about trying to do that. We had about 5 or 6 phone conferences. We had an all persons meeting up at Avek offices. And finally, at the end of all of that, we produced that committee, which was myself and Warren Wellen from Waterworks 40, Wendy Wang from Best and Creator, Robert Cush, Rich Zimmer, Keith Lemieux, of just a cast and characters of every interest in the adjudication to finally get this water master a set of rules and regs. So we turned over the last draft we worked on March 25th. On April 15th, and that has been proceeding to the water master's lawyer up to the point where tomorrow the water master will consider it. It isn't the document I wished it was going to be, because I thought we could pretty much cut it down to maybe 60-70% of its size, because in large part it has a lot of paraphrasing of the judgment which is a little frightening because paraphrasing a judgment and the judgment itself can have interesting differences somewhere over the road. But we had to stick with that format because the court had already approved a big hunk of it in 11 different parts. So we have a document now that's going to be going to the water master, which we can recommend as a general matter to approve. However, in addition to that, you have in your staff report some items that we are going to ask the water master from Avek. We've asked for some changes to the last draft, and there are 6 or 7 changes, and some suggestions. And this came from a committee meeting that happened last week, and were delivered late last week to Craig Parton, the water master's lawyer, saying Avek would like these changes effected. And I think Rob, who's your representative, would take an instruction to support adopting the rules and make every good effort to have all of these changes made as well. I don't know what the fate of all of these changes would be, but I don't think, and Rob can speak for himself on this, I don't think you want to hold up the water master rules from finally getting put in place as a whole over this. But I also think they will probably make most, if not all, of these changes tomorrow morning. So I'll go over the changes. Some are a little heavier than others. And there's a page reference and a section reference to most of these changes. So the page reference is off a draft I have, which is close, but may not be exactly the same as others. Well, let me go over the reasons for these real quickly. So the first one on page 27 has to do with written applications to the water master engineer for new production. And that has been a very controversial item. It's actually a point of contention in the Willis appeal of the case, which we're now almost completed our work on. So so there was one rule in there, item 12, which is up there, number 1 on your list, that essentially says that the water master engineer can ask for any other pertinent information he wants to, in addition to the enumerated parts of the application someone has to make. So we are sticking the word reasonably in there. So other pertinent information which the water master engineer may reasonably require is a large substantive difference that we think ought to be made in there. And so somebody has a way of saying that's just not a reasonable request, because who knows what the engineer may request or may not request. So that was one item. It's minor, but maybe not so minor if somebody was applying for new production.
I absolutely agree with you with that, Jim. I think that's a good catch. Right. I agree with that.
Right.
Totally.
Great. Okay. The next two, the next one has to do with page 34, and this is an interesting part because all stored water in the maintenance of the basin is going to have a storage agreement with the water master, which complies with the judgment. So, however, excepted from that is a very important exception, and that is the presently operating water banks, including the Avek water banks, which Avek is not willing to subject to contractual control by the water master in any way. So later on in subsection F, it says that. So I thought it would be wise to insert that language that except as provided in subsection F below, that you need a storage agreement, and provided in F below is the exception for the present water banks. So that's one suggested change there. And then there's another change in number 3, in the same paragraph. The last word is storage agreement, which means that you have that any question that comes up with respect to an application for storage or a storage agreement has to be managed according to the storage agreement. We are suggesting they change managed according to the judgment rather than according to the storage agreement, because the judgment is the operative document that people have to adhere to. And if you have enough storage agreements, who knows what's going to pop up in one? And we want to be sure nothing that can be contracted could supersede the judgment. So that's number 3. Number 4 is 9FA. So 9F, as I said, pretty much deals with present water banks. But 9FA, if you look at that, if you can look it up in your copy of the rules, I don't understand it. I'm the first to admit it, nor did anyone on the committee understand exactly what this was for. It reads, storage agreements shall be for the accounting of the groundwater storage capacity of the basin. And it's hard to understand how a storage agreement for a certain amount of stored water could have anything to do with the capacity of the entire basin. And somebody drafted this and missed the point they were trying to make. So we have pointed that out, that they should delete that or modify it to explain what it means. So that's pretty simple. Then on number 5, on page 37, we caught the water master engineer having a certain amount of discretion that really wasn't intended unless the water master directed it. So this is one, we probably caught 24 of those drafting this. But here's one that wasn't caught yet. It says the water master engineer may include conditions of approval for a proposed water banking facilities in operation that requires future documentation the project remains in compliance with the original non-material injury determination. So it makes sense in the future, something that is found not to be injurious or materially injurious could become materially injurious as conditions change. But we thought that if somebody was going to put that condition in a storage agreement for a water bank, that the water master body ought to do it, not just the engineer. We think that's too much discretion for the engineer to exercise, and it should go to the water master board. So that's what that change is.
Makes
and then
sense.
Yes?
I said this is sourceable. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we caught most of those, but I guess not all of them yet. Then an interesting provision is the next one, number 6, 13CA on page 47. So most of us didn't think this provision even belonged in the rules, because what it does is recite the existence and basic terms of a lease transfer agreement between Avek and Waterworks 40. It's the only one Avek's entered into. This is one Adam Ariki specifically wanted in the rules and regs, probably so it wouldn't be lost in someone's file somewhere and would resonate. So this is an accommodation for Adam, but the draft, Wendy Wang sent it in, but the drafting we didn't think was accurate enough, because they thought, they're under the impression that there are multiple agreements like this, but there really is only one. So we have modified the language to reflect the fact there's only one agreement by redrafting that language that you see in front of you, where it says Avek's entered into one agreement, and then got rid of the phrase "for example" in the next sentence because it's the only example. And so that was just to make certain we were not giving the impression there were other missing agreements out there, which there are not. And again, yes.
Yeah, Mr. Wayne Chisholm, nothing in this language would prevent us from entering into other agreements with other customers to lease water under the similar circumstances as we lease to Waterworks. Is that correct?
No, not at all. This is just trying to be accurate.
Gotcha.
And like I said, I don't know that this belongs in the rules and regs, but
all right.
Adam didn't want to lose track of it.
Gotcha.
Okay, so now the last change is on page 73, and this is another one, Shelley, catching the word engineer in a couple of places when it should just be the water master that's making the determination. Let me get to that. Okay, yeah, this is
Water
this
master.
one's this is
It's the water board, right?
yeah, this is where this one has to do with abandoning wells in the proper manner. And in 2 places it said that to remove or deactivate a well, you have to remove the meter, and in the event you're not replacing it, unless the producer obtains the prior written consent of the water master engineer and you submit photographic evidence that you've abandoned the well. So we took out engineer and put in water master. So if somebody wants to do something unusual in abandoning a well, they got to come to the water master board. They can't just talk to the staff and do it. So we took out the word engineer there.
Shouldn't it say water master board? Because you just have water master itself. Shouldn't it say water master board?
It doesn't matter. Water master is defined as the board. It's a reference to the board itself. It's an entity, arm of the court. But you can put board in if you think it's more accurate too. That's fine. Then the last
just to add, Charlie, this is Wayne. And there's a particular section in the rules and regulations that defines water master.
Right.
Oh, as the water master board. So they're several mistakes.
Okay, thanks for that.
And then the last sentence, that you have to comply when you abandon a well, you have to comply with all county and local requirements for doing so. If applicable, and the water master engineer can add other specific requirements, which we didn't think was a good idea. So we again took out engineer and left it up to the water master and water master board to make that decision if you're going to ask for that decision. So those were the changes we've asked for. And then Dwayne has some other suggestions that we wanted to pass on to the water master tomorrow that isn't really not a rule or regulation change you can make. It's just suggestions, and a couple of which will require the judgment to be amended. So real quickly in order, the first one is there's a table that talks about counting and sending in the results of metering wells, so you can get, you can trace the production by all the producers, and it has to be sent in quarterly. And even though you're collecting on a daily basis through flow meters, Dwayne thought it was pretty burdensome to cause, especially small producers, to generate 4 times the amount of paper that's necessary and meet 4 dates, 4 deadlines, instead of just doing it annually. So he suggested, and we're passing on the suggestion that it should be an annual submission. And that obviously would cut the paperwork involved in this down to 1/4 of it otherwise going to be.
So I'd like to make a comment on that. I agree with that. It's just we do it annually, or they want it's just a pain in the butt. So
yeah,
I think we got to be careful how much power we give the water master. Not so much a water master board. They're doing a great job. I'd say the water master engineer.
Right. And the next suggestion, paragraph 2, is again on a new production application. It has a curious and onerous requirement that to do it, any well that would produce new production, you'd have to prepare a water conservation plan approved and stamped by a licensed engineer, professional engineer, demonstrate the production will be designed, constructed, and implemented, consistent with best water management practices. And that's hardwired in the judgment. And Dwayne is suggesting that ought to be taken out as applied to small residential wells, because that's tremendously onerous and expensive to apply to every little well that might support one household. And I think Frank also on the committee level was very supportive of that idea. And then the last one is a really interesting one to me, because I see what Dwayne's driving at. So the water master rule referred to there on page 32 essentially says that if you have carryover water, you cannot be deemed to pump your carryover water in any year unless you first pump all of the waters you have under your production right. So it kind of forces the carryover water to be held year after year after year, and the production right water is the first water pumped out. And Dwayne's thought was you're really trying to micromanage the decisions of whoever that water producer, whatever the activities or whatever the enterprise that they're engaging in may be. You're telling them essentially how to move around and handle the different kinds of water rights he has, which there might be different markets. There might be a lot of reasons to use carryover water first. You might be getting to the end of the 10th year, and you have to start losing carryover water if you don't pump it, and then suddenly you still have a production right to pump. So he just thinks it takes the discretion out of the hands of the water managers and ought to be discussed for a change. So that was suggested too. So that is sort of the last word that Avek has plugged into this process, which will hopefully end tomorrow with a set of rules and regs approved.
Hey, Jim, real quick, can you put carryover water into a storage agreement?
Yeah, and it will automatically go into a storage agreement. Then it forces you to enter into a storage agreement.
Right.
And
then it forces you to pay that storage agreement. So I disagree with Yeah, you should be able to use your carryover water first.
Because you can always pump the first carryover water that you moved and stay away from any compulsion to hold it for 10 years and enter into a storage agreement. Just depends on your situation, whether there's a transfer market. All kinds of things could suggest all different decisions on that. And
if the ultimate goal is to let the aquifer, rebuild and come back to life here, why would they want to limit you to the way you pump it?
Right. Well, that's what Dwayne's thought was. So it's in that memo.
I agree with Dwayne.
But as I said, I think I'm on Dwayne feels about this or Rob, but I hope all of these things, these 7 suggestions are adopted. But if they're not, I'm still hoping that the board instructs Rob to support adopting the rules and regs as he within his discretion.
Well, it depends on what it is, Jim.
That's true.
You can't give a blanket on that because it could be something very important to the agency.
No, I agree. But if we don't get all 7 of these things, I don't know. I suppose that would back it up and it'd have to be set for another hearing. That's up to you guys. But
well, I'd like to hear what Rob has to say.
Yeah.
Hi, Shelley. I think we should try for all 7. And if we don't get all 7, we will put it off for one more meeting so I can come back to the board and explain which ones I couldn't get agreement on and go from there.
Okay.
I like that. Any other comments? That goes to the requested changes. What about the suggestions?
Those suggestions, 2 of them, you'd have to amend the judgment. So, and the first one, the quarterly production reports, they're just suggestions. The committee did not have me present those as requests for rule changes at this point.
And Jim, if I'm not, aren't all those part of the judgment already? Is that?
I know 2 and 3 are. I'm not quite sure on number 1, the quarterly submit production reports. Probably so.
Yeah. So
yeah.
On 2 and 3, I think all 3 of them are, and right. We don't have the power to change the judgment as the Water Master Board.
Right.
That would have to be taken up by one of the parties.
Right.
Regardless if we make suggestions or not, they're going to have to go before the judge.
That's
right.
Correct.
Yeah, but it's different. It's different to change the judgment because when people start scrutinizing, I mean, somebody must have a reason for some of this. So they're not really. These are rules that are just paraphrasing the judgment. So if you guys wanted to sponsor a judgment amendment, that's, I think, a little more serious, a little harder. But we can do that.
I think we need to have the committee look at those things to explore how serious and how important they are before we go that far.
And right. One thing to remember is that the rules and regulations would have to go back to the judge anyway. So you might be able to package these suggestions in with your trip to the court to get the rules and regulations if there was a unanimous approval and concept of doing something like that and see where that might lie.
Okay.
I had one question, Director Van Dam. Matt, are you there?
I am.
Hey, Matt, did we, at the advisory meeting that we had last week, did we highlight on these 7 issues? Maybe I was a little late to that meeting. I don't recall.
No, Director Van Dam, these comments came after the advisory committee. By providing these comments to Craig Parton and posting them on the Water Master website. So I don't see a problem with these comments coming after the advisory committee.
And when you say we, Matt, is that we as an AVAC made these requests?
Right. We meaning AVAC.
So there may be other requested changes from other entities.
Yeah, I saw some additional comments from individual producers to the judgment posted after the advisory committee.
So it could theoretically need to go back to the advisory board.
No, it doesn't have to. It does not have to.
It doesn't have to. The water master could send it back if they thought they wanted the advice.
Yeah, exactly. But the board can make the decision tomorrow on these recommended changes.
How do you feel about that?
I have to say, Shelley, in this process, I thought I was through getting lists of changes maybe 2 months ago, and they just kept, every time we set a conference call, we got another couple of lists from the participants on our committee. So it just doesn't ever, this is a massive document, it just doesn't, every time somebody carefully reviews it, they see something different.
Yeah, but Jimmy, you just said that these are changes from us.
These are from us. These are from us that were generated, that essentially came from the staff.
In my observation, should have gone to the advisory committee before there were.
Right. Exactly, Sheila. That's what I'm saying. I'm in disagreement to this deal. I'm not in agreement to this deal because it just it went around the advisory committee. We weren't aware of it. I'd like to table it, have it come before the advisory committee. Director Van Dam.
Gary, you can't well, you can do whatever you want to try to do, but tabling it means it can't come before the group tomorrow, which means either I vote yes or no on approving the rules and regulations. A better course of action would be to present these and recommend that all changes go back through the advisory committee and bring it back before the board a month from now.
I think that's what Gary's saying.
I'm okay with that. You okay with that, Shelley?
Yeah, that sounds like what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think
you don't want to ask the advisory committee to do all this work and then have all these changes and have them not even seen these and then try to get them passed.
exactly. And that again, that advisory committee is a member of 9 different Exhibit 4 water purveyors. So it's got Matt's on there. It's got a multi-fashion of different directors and stuff. So they're advising in their behalf.
Yeah. So we may have the ability to do it, but is it the right thing to do? And are they ready for us to do that?
Shelley, I'm good with just presenting our changes and recommending they go back to the advisory committee and withholding my vote until it does. Your vote.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent suggestion. I think that's respectful of all. And you've done a really good job in keeping everybody, unified. And we don't want to start making them feel undermined, the advisory committee feel like they're being undermined at all.
And I agree. I think that's a really good recommendation.
Okay. Gary, you're good with that? Everybody else good with that?
Yeah, I'm good with. Thank you, Rob.
Absolutely, Gary.
Yes, I agree too.
Yep.
Thank you, Audrey. Okay, so any other discussion of these items? So do we need to approve? We're not going to be able to. Are we going to approve the board order, Jim?
No, I think the board order. So let's seeking direction for Rob tomorrow. It sounds to me like you've all agreed on what he's directed to do. So that's really all you need.
So do we need to take action on this board?
Yeah, you can take an action to ratify the direction that was just given.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do I have a motion?
This is Rob. I'll move approval of board order VC1, providing the direction just given to me by the board.
8C1, excuse me.
8C1, excuse me.
Okay, do I have a second?
This is Director Miller. I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller, Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Dustin Lane,
Yes.
Frank Donato is not present, Keith Dias,
Yes.
Kelly Sourceville.
Yes. Thank you, Madam President. Okay. Item number 9, old business. Do we have any?
No.
Okay, item 10, General Manager's Report on Water Supply Projects and Programs.
Okay. Thank you. This is the General Manager's Report from May 26, 2020. As we normally go through, this is probably the last time we'll talk about weather in the northern region until probably September or so. But you can see that snow levels will be about 9,000 to 10,000 feet range by Saturday. And we're not expecting much rain, maybe a few thunderstorms, that type of thing. If you look at the snow level from the various levels, and let me see if I can highlight here where we're at, you can see that this blue line is right here. So you can see we're pretty much done with the snow melt. There's a couple of areas, but not much left as far as snow. The good news is this is our chart. Shows our rainfall. This is the culprit that created the difficulty for us here in February. Yeah. But you can see that in May we were able to add a couple inches more than we thought, and that helped us in our water allocation. If we look at the water picture, you can see we're right about here, and it's pretty level from this point forward, so we're going to be, it's a pretty dry year, considering everything. To highlight that, it's primarily dry in the north, which you can see up here. And in Southern California, we actually had a pretty good rain season. And but when all of our water comes from this northern area up here. I'm trying to get this thing to work here a little better. You can see right in here is where we get most of our water. So it's pretty dry in that particular location. The good news is we had a very wet year last year, so our reservoirs are in good shape for this season. And we're in pretty good shape on all of our reservoir levels. This is where we are with regards to Orville. And so we're in good shape there. And this is where we're at with San Luis. We're on our downward slide right in through here, which is very consistent to where you think we would be. So we did have an increase in allocation to 20%, which is a 5% increase. That is quite beneficial to the agency. Because we do have a potential water transfer that we might be able to utilize to provide some added revenue into the Avek budget for this year. And mainly it's, as I indicated, our May was 181% of average, and that's what gave us that extra 5%. And this will be our final allocation for 2020. I don't anticipate any additional water coming. just some facts. This year's snowpack was the 11th driest of record since 1950, and we were the 7th driest year for precipitation on record since 1977. So it was a pretty dry year. What does 20% allocation really look like? In the project, that's 843,696 acre feet. Of that amount, Avek gets a little short of 29,000 acre feet. Closer to home, this is our graph that our chart we use for conventional treatment. You can see here that our flows beginning to move up in Course Hill Water Treatment Plant as the heat begins to take effect. We have some coming out of the East Side Water Bank and our exchange. So we're right about 31, 32 million gallons a day. Excuse me. As far as our geopurification, we got 1.7 million gallons a day coming out of the East Side Water Bank. West Side Water Bank has our minimum, which is 7.8 million gallons a day. We had some bench ranch wells just to test those wells and keep them fresh and operational. So we had between 10 and 11 million gallons a day going in from the geopurification system. In addition to that, the only water banking we're doing is on the East Side Water Bank at 3 acre feet a day. We'll continue to do that on the east side, so we have water available to utilize to help the eastern side of the water system for water quality purposes. Once again, this is history from 2010 to 2020. You can see our two big wet years here where we were able to put quite a bit of water in, and some relatively good years between 16, 17, 18, 19, and then this was very small years. We only put a few thousand acre feet in, and that corresponds. It's a little shy of what we'll take out, but it's pretty close to what we'll take out of the water bank. So, and if you look at this is 83.4 is what Avek has available, and this 27.810 is associated with our metropolitan agreement that we have with them for storage of water. This is our water sales. You can see that April is really low as far as water sales go, but you can see our big months are coming up here in May, June, July, and August. The long-term weather forecast shows a very dry and wet and warm 30 days and 90 days. They don't see any above normal. They're predicting above normal temperatures. So we'll see how that works for us as far as water sales go. As far as water quality goes, we're still meeting our goals. We're going to collect some THM samples on Thursday, and we have I can never pronounce that thing, cystine testing will begin next week through the test. That's an algae that has potential to impact our water quality. And then we've resumed back to normal operating hours for the staff, and we have no reports of illness due to COVID-19. If we look at operation maintenance updates, we're still scheduling those remaining asset replacement projects, and they're working on the Phillips Lab rocket site pump station. They have completed the operation capital budget is complete and will be part of the budget cycle process that we'll go through in the next several weeks. And we have no report of illness due to COVID-19. A couple of new bills to let you know about tonight is the American Water Infrastructure Act of 2020. It aims to increase water storage and improve flood protection. and authorizes the pilot program of alternative water supply projects. Once again, this is potential SNP funding and some other projects that might be beneficial to the agency moving forward. And then we have the Drinking Water and Infrastructure Act of 2020. This would, would reauthorize programs under the Safe Drinking Water Act. It would create a drinking water infrastructure discretionary grant program, and it has to do with aging facilities, and we don't have a lot of those that would meet that criteria, but we'll certainly look into it. And we're actually looking at some legislative outreach to broaden our eligibility for these various projects, and our consultant is working on that for us. As far as the schedule of events over the next 7 to 10 days, we're looking at a Water Master board meeting on Wednesday, and then my schedule, with the exception of a few hours off on Friday, I'll be here the balance of the next 2 weeks. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have on the board.
Just to advise everybody, it looks like we're going to be doing these teleconference meetings for the foreseeable future. So for your planning, I just wanted to put everybody on notice about that. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would. It appears that while there is some opening up of various items, I think public meetings is something that they can continue to maintain at a closure, because they're not very easily regulated when they have these kinds of public meetings. So,
thank you. Okay. Item number 11, director's reports. Do any of the directors have anything to report? Item 12, attorney report. Jim, do you have anything to report? We can't hear you.
I'm unmuted now. I'm sorry. So we have one case that the water contractors, state water contractors, are involved in. It's not on the agenda or for closed session, but as you know, the Delta Stewardship Council case went the wrong way at the Court of Appeals. It was an unpublished 93-page opinion when it came out, and it has one very disturbing issue that was decided against the state water contractors, and that is that the Delta Stewardship Council would have the authority to take a negative position on covered projects that it could control in a way which would stop water from coming south out of the Delta if the recipient agencies that were going to get that water did not make a strong enough effort to find other sources of water, whether through conservation or desal or anything else. So in other words, the Stewardship Council is taking control on the basis of items that aren't in the Delta, have nothing to do with the Delta, and sits there judging whether it's a reasonable use of water, basically, to send the water south during a time when other cases are disputing how much water should go south and what should be in the interim take permits and all that. So very disturbing. And then a couple of weeks ago, the Court of Appeals decided to publish everything about that decision except the attorney's fees struggle. So now it's a published decision, and the decision is going to be made whether to take that up to try to get the California Supreme Court to review it. And so they're presently drafting a motion for reconsideration at the appellate stage. So it looks like that's going to keep on going and go up to the Supreme Court. At least that's what I think they'll do. I can't say that for sure. So that's a live case that had a very troubling outcome.
Okay. Well, thanks for that great news.
Yeah.
Okay. Item number 13, requests for future agenda items. Do any of the directors have any requests? Okay. Closed session. Do we have a reason to go into closed session and what items?
Yes, we do. It's item C and D. It shouldn't take too long, but a fairly short closed session. Just some updates on C and D.
Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
I'll make a motion we go into closed session for items 14C and D.
Ms. Robb, I second the motion.
Roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Justin Lane,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Kelly Sourceville.
Yes, let's take a 5-minute break, sign on to the website or the Zoom call that Holly sent us, and we'll get back to the other meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.